At 03:15 hours local time over central Iran, a B-2 stealth bomber was cruising at 42,000 feet on a mission its crew had spent 11 hours flying toward. A solo bomb run against a hardened underground ammunition depot packed with Iranian missiles. Everything seemed normal. Then the threat display lit up with an emitter the crew had been praying they'd thread past. Unknown to them, 3 SAM batteries that intelligence confirmed destroyed 2 weeks ago were very much alive. The cockpit suddenly went quiet, the kind of quiet where you hear your own heartbeat in your helmet. The mission commander already working the problem. He pulls the first Iranian radar's position, a Ghadir from the DMS. The B-2's defensive management system, essentially a system that classifies every radar trying to find them and overlays it on the navigational display. The Ghadir is Iran's long-range VHF early warning radar, the kind that searches for aircraft the way a floodlight searches for a parking lot. The floodlight is on, and the parking lot is the size of 3 American states. The B-2, call sign Infiltrating, is skating the eastern edge. The null zone is tight, a 15-mile corridor between the Ghadir's effective beam and a second early warning radar 60 miles to the east that hasn't detected them yet. Thread it clean and the VHF return stays below confidence threshold. Miss the window and the B-2 registers as a solid track on the next pass. He calls the correction to the pilot, 3 degrees right. The pilot adjusts without a word. Cockpit communication runs on hand signals and clip phrases. No radio calls to the tankers, no check-ins with the KAOC or Combined Air Operations Center. No updates from the F-35's running SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses packages 200 miles west. The crew that could help them doesn't know they need help, and the one transmission that would fix that would light up every ELINT receiver on the Gulf Coast. Signals intelligence, a network of ears pressed to the wall of Iranian airspace, cataloging everything that broadcasts. One radio call from Infiltrating and every surviving intercept station knows exactly which patch of sky to watch. They solve this with what's inside the cockpit, or they don't solve it at all. The Ghadir sweeps. The DMS registers signal strength peaking as the beam passes through their sector and fading. The mission commander watches the next sweep approach on the rotation timer, 8 seconds between passes. The pilot holds the corrected heading steady, threading Infiltrating through the gap in the coverage at 42,000 feet and 560 miles per hour. The beam sweeps again. Signal peaks, fades. The mission commander exhales through his teeth. The return on that pass was weaker than the last. The null zone is working, the geometry opening as they push north. But VHF early warning doesn't need a solid track to cause damage. The consequences are already compounding behind them. The B-2 has a radar cross-section of roughly 0.01 square meters, about the size of a large bird. An aircraft spanning half a football field, and Iran's radars see a pigeon. A very fast pigeon with 11 hours of fuel and 16 bunker busters in its belly. The B-2A Spirit, Northrop Grumman's flying wing stealth bomber. 172 feet of radar-shaped composite, roughly the distance from home plate to second base. Built to carry 40,000 pounds of weapons through defended airspace undetected. Radar cross-section, 0.01 square meters. Range, 6,000 nautical miles without refueling. Price tag, $2.1 billion per airframe. Only 21 ever built. What the Air Force sends when the target has to be destroyed and no one can know it was there. Iran has been hunting for this thing with everything it has left, and the Indian Ocean has given them better radar returns than the B-2 has. Stealth is not a cloaking device. It's whispering in a room full of people shouting, where the radar pulse goes out at full volume and what bounces back is so faint it gets lost in the background noise. An Iranian early warning operator caught a faint return. One sweep invisible, the next sweep gone. Third sweep, a ghost heading north at high altitude. A month into epic fury, a low-confidence contact heading toward Isfahan doesn't get filed and forgotten. Here's why that ghost existed at all. The B-2 was built to beat fire control radars like this one. The X-band and S-band systems SAM batteries use to guide missiles. VHF is a different animal. The wavelengths are physically long, the same size as the B-2's wing edges and engine inlets. When a radar wave matches the dimensions of the thing it's hitting, stealth shaping stops working the way it should. The wave doesn't slide off, it bounces. Hiding behind a chain link fence works fine if someone searches with a laser pointer. The beam passes right through the gaps. It doesn't work that way when they flood the area with a spotlight the size of a barn door. VHF radar is the barn door spotlight. The Ghadir can't produce fire control data, just bearing and approximate altitude. But that's more than enough to tell every surviving SAM battery in the region exactly where to look. The report propagates through surviving landlines to the Isfahan Air Defense Command, and a sector alert goes out to every battery covering the southern approach. The crew threaded the null zone cleanly, but the ghost they left on the Ghadir's scope was already talking to everyone who matters. And the target that brought Infiltrating across 11 hours of ocean under total radio silence is still 60 miles north. An underground ammunition depot near Mount Safa, Isfahan. Missiles, rockets, artillery rounds, enough ordnance to supply every Iranian launch site threatening coalition bases in the Gulf. The 16 2,000-pound penetrator bombs on the rotary launchers below the crew's feet are not doing anyone any good until they get there. 40 minutes of Iranian airspace between Infiltrating and the weapons release, like walking through a bad neighborhood with a fresh Rolex, and the entire surviving air defense network now knows approximately which direction to look. The next 20 minutes are the quiet part. 200 miles of Iranian airspace where the DMS shows nothing but distant radars well below detection threshold. The mission commander works through the bomb checklist while the pilot holds heading on an autopilot that costs more per circuit board than a loaded BMW 5 Series. Outside of the cockpit, there's nothing to see at 42,000 feet. Just the hum of 4 F-118 engines pushing a stealth bomber through thin air at high subsonic speed. The kind of silence that makes a crew's hearing sharpen. Because in a B-2, the first sign of trouble is never visual. It's a tone from the DMS that you feel in your teeth before your brain can register. Then a new emitter appears on the scope, and it's not an early warning radar. Square pair engagement radar, bearing 020, range 80 kilometers, classified as S-200VE, NATO designation SA-5 Gammon. This battery should not exist. Satellite imagery from 2 weeks ago showed its original position as a smoking crater, and nobody scheduled a second look. But the launcher components are here now in a camouflage revetment south of Isfahan. The same crew that drove them out of the rubble 3 weeks ago pointed the missiles at the corridor coalition aircraft have been using all month. They hadn't been hiding from the war, they had been studying it. The S-200 battery commander receives the sector alert on his fiber optic terminal. He has 4 missiles left. The moment he lights up his radar, every American anti-radiation missile within 200 kilometers will know where he's sitting. If the contact is real and he gets a track, he shoots. If it's a ghost and he illuminates for nothing, he just told every coalition aircraft in the region his home address. The mission commander calls a heading change without waiting for the second sweep. 15 degrees north, nose on to the square pair. The signal weakens on the DMS as the aspect angle sharpens and the range opens. There's a reason he's not relaxing. The S-200 doesn't stop searching, and it doesn't stop talking to the network. What the DMS has been classifying for the past 90 seconds, the S-200VE, Soviet-designed 1960s vintage, the kind of system most analysts file under destroyed. Its 5V-28 missile is almost 11 meters long, roughly the height of a 3-story building, weighs 7 tons, and carries a 217-kilogram warhead past Mach 3.5 to ranges exceeding 250 kilometers. That's further than the distance from Houston to San Antonio. The square pair guidance radar operates in C-band, active radar, shouting into darkness and listening for the echo, a frequency the B-2 stealth shaping reduces but cannot beat at close range. The crew just spent 2 minutes proving it can find them at 80 kilometers. The American taxpayer built a $2.1 billion aircraft to defeat this missile. Right now, that missile's radar is building a picture of exactly where that $2.1 billion aircraft is hiding. The S-200's radar data feeds through the same fiber optic links that carried the original Ghadir alert. The sector refreshes with fire control data confirming the target is real, heading for Isfahan and evading. The heading change bought distance from the S-200 and simultaneously told every surviving battery that something worth chasing is inbound. Meanwhile, the 15-degree correction threw off the bomb run math for all 16 weapons, and the mission commander is recalculating GPS coordinates while the threat picture doubles. 90 seconds later, the DMS paints a new emitter at bearing 045, intermittent pulses with shrinking intervals as somebody narrows a beam toward the B-2 sector. The ANAPR-50 classifies it as a Mirage 4 ASA, active electronically scanned array, the fire control radar of a Bavar 373 battery northeast of Isfahan. The APR-50 is the B-2's threat library. It hears a radar pulse, matches the waveform fingerprint against every known emitter in the database, and tells the crew exactly what's hunting them. The Bavar 373 is a motion sensor floodlight on your garage. It only triggers if something moves through its beam. On its own, finding a stealth aircraft with a floodlight is impossible. But someone just told it exactly where to look. The Ghadir gave it the neighborhood, the S-200 gave it the street, the Mirage 4 is going door to door. Here's the problem that has no clean answer. Turning north put the B-2 nose on the S-200, which minimized the radar return against the square pair. But nose onto the S-200 is beam onto the Bavar 373, showing a significantly larger cross-section to the more capable system. Every degree of heading favoring one threat exposes the aircraft to the other, like trying to hide from your wife and your mother-in-law at the same family dinner. Turning away from one puts you face-to-face with the other, and both of them have questions. Inside the Bavar 373 battery, the commander watches his display as the Mirage 4 sweeps the sector in narrowing passes. He cannot confirm what he's seeing, but he has spent a month watching coalition strikes flatten everything around him while he kept his radar dark, preserving his battery for a target worth the risk. If something important enough to fly alone toward Isfahan is inbound tonight, it'll pass through his sector. He narrows his beam. The mission commander activates the electronic countermeasure suite, the active side of B-2 stealth, located inside the B-2's wings. These modules grab the Mirage 4's radar pulses and rebroadcast them with calculated delay and frequency shift. The result fills the Bavar 373 screen with ghost targets that look just real enough to ruin the track. Against an old-school radar dish, the ECM would create a perfect fake miles from the real aircraft. The Mirage 4 is smarter than that. It checks its own work, cross-referencing returns from different beam angles. You can't fool it clean, but you can make the picture blurry enough that it can't hold a lock. Think of it like someone sending you 30 slightly different versions of the same text message. You know one of them is the real one, but by the time you figure out which, the conversation's moved on. The Bavar 373 threat indicator shifts from solid to intermittent on the DMS, and the mission commander watches it flicker. The ECM bought them time, but it also made everything worse. The system is radiating. Jamming emissions are detectable by any ELINT receiver with line of sight. The aircraft designed to be invisible just became the loudest thing in central Iran on the Bavar 373's frequency band. The most expensive whisper in military history just turned into a shout. Every surviving signals intelligence station within 100 miles now has a bearing on active jamming at high altitude over Isfahan. The S-200 crew, whose track had been fading, receives a fresh ELINT-derived bearing and swings for the square pair back on target. The Bavar 373 gets a cross-reference confirming aircraft actively jamming at this bearing. The jamming protecting the B-2 from one radar is handing its position to every other sensor in the network. 3 sources: VHF from Ghadir, C-band from the S-200, ELINT from the B-2's own electronic warfare suite. 1 target. The aircraft that crossed the border 90 minutes ago now has a 3-dimensional address, and the crew is 4 minutes from opening the bomb bay doors. 2 minutes to weapons release. The mission commander finishes the last aim point recalculation while the pilot holds steady at 42,000 feet. Every heading change over the past 10 minutes threw off the bomb run math. He's been rebuilding GPS coordinates for 16 weapons, while 2 SAM radars and an ELINT network close from 3 directions. 16 weapons have been on those rotary launchers since Diego Garcia. Everything that happened for the past 11 hours, the ocean crossing, 3 refuelings, the null zone threading, the heading corrections, the ECM activation, was all to buy them 37 seconds over this target. Aim points confirmed, rotary launchers spinning to the release position. Every second those doors stay open is a second both fire control radars can build the track they've been chasing for the past hour. The Sayyad 4 only needs 1 clean firing solution to end Anvil 31's night. Bomb bay doors open, the moment every B-2 crew trains for and the moment the aircraft is the most vulnerable. For 10 seconds, the stealth geometry that kept this B-2 flying for the past 11 hours ceases to exist. The radar cross-section jumps from a bird to a small aircraft as the weapons bays crack open. $2 billion of stealth engineering defeated for 10 seconds by the simple act of opening a door. The most expensive game of peekaboo in history. Every radar in central Iran can suddenly see the guts of the bomber, launcher drums, bomb casings, all of it reflecting energy the stealth skin was designed to hide. The Bavar 373 operator's display resolves instantly. The intermittent track sharpens into a solid return, aircraft size, bearing south 42,000 feet, and he calls for weapons authorization. The battery commander faces the calculation every Iranian air defense officer has learned in the past month. Half the batteries who illuminated with fire control radar attracted American anti-radiation missiles within 90 seconds. Illuminating to shoot might end with a harm, high-speed anti-radiation missile streaking down his own radar beam before his interceptor can clear the rail. The harm does not chase aircraft. It chases radars. The moment a SAM battery lights up, the harm locks onto the signal and rides it back to the source like a dog chasing a squirrel. Except this squirrel carries a fragmentation warhead and arrives at Mach 2. But this return is real and directly over Isfahan. He authorizes the shot. Inside Anvil 3-1, the rotary launcher is cycling. GBU-31's dropping into the Iranian night with GPS acquiring, tail fins deploying, each bomb steering independently toward its aim point across the depot complex. What just left that weapons bay? 16 GBU-31 JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munitions, each with a GPS antenna in the tail kit. 4 fins correcting course 10 times per second. The guidance system drops a pin on the target's GPS coordinates before release and doesn't let go, like dropping a location pin in your phone's map. Except this pin weighs 2,000 pounds and arrives at terminal velocity. Each carries a BLU-109 penetrator warhead, forged steel casing 1 inch thick, 550 pounds of tritonal, and a delayed action FMU-143 fuse. The fuse doesn't fire on impact. It counts floors like an elevator, waiting until it reaches the right depth before detonating. A conventional bomb is a sledgehammer. It hits the surface and spreads energy across the top. The Blue 109 is a railroad spike driven by a freight train. All the force focused into punching through 1 to 2 meters of reinforced concrete first. The depot near Mount Safa was built to survive conventional airstrikes. It wasn't built to survive 16 railroad spikes arriving simultaneously. The mission commander can do nothing about the Sayyad 4 spinning up on the rail to the northeast. He can only watch the rotary launcher count down the remaining weapons while the seconds of exposure tick past. 10 seconds of maximum exposure, bomb bay doors close. Iran's entire surviving air defense network had a 10-second window. They used 4 of those seconds on a fire authorization check. The marble returns. The Bavar 373's solid track dissolves into noise, the Mirage 4 staring at empty sky where an aircraft existed a moment ago. The S-200's square pair loses its return in the same instant. 5 seconds later, the Sayyad 4 clears the rail and its booster ignites. What just left that launcher? The Sayyad 4C, Iran's longest-range indigenous interceptor, a 2-stage solid-fuel missile standing 6 meters tall, accelerating past Mach 4.5 to an engagement ceiling above 90,000 feet. Semi-active radar homing. It rides the reflected energy from the Mirage 4 the way a dog follows a scent trail. Except this dog weighs 1,800 kilograms and carries a proximity-fused fragmentation warhead designed to shred anything within a 50-meter radius. Range, 200 kilometers, further than the distance from New York to Hartford. The interceptor screams toward the last known position of a target that no longer exists on any scope in the Iranian network. The interceptor is chasing a ghost. The Sayyad 4 is a $3 million missile pursuing a ghost contact that ceased to exist 4 seconds before launch. In Tehran, someone's already trying to figure out how to write that in a report. The B-2's already banking south, a bird-sized whisper slipping out of the sector the entire network spent the last hour converging on. Here's what the Bavar 373 commander didn't find out until it was over. He had the right shot. The Sayyad 4 launch geometry was clean. The bomb bay opening gave him the cross-section his radar had been waiting 11 hours for. The bearing was confirmed. The altitude was locked. He had everything a SAM battery needs to end a mission. What he didn't have was 4 seconds. That same harm suppression campaign that destroyed 11 Iranian air defense batteries in the opening week of Epic Fury had trained every Iranian operator to run an intercept chain authorization check before firing. 4 seconds to confirm the jamming environment was clear before committing. 4 seconds the American Air Force had systematically built into every Iranian commander's decision cycle. Not with a weapon, but with 21 days of consequences. The weapon that beat the Bavar 373 wasn't in Anvil 31's weapons bay. It had already been installed in the battery commander's head. He made the right call. He just made it 4 seconds too late. Below the aircraft, 16 BLU-109 penetrators do what forged steel does at terminal velocity. They hit the depot's reinforced roof and do not stop. 1-inch casings punching through concrete while the delayed fuses count as the bombs bore deeper into the underground storage chambers. The warheads detonate inside the magazine complex. The initial blasts are the bombs, but what follows is the depot itself. Stored missiles ignite first, solid rocket propellant catching in the confined underground space where overpressure has nowhere to go. The blast rips through magazine walls and punches into adjacent chambers. Artillery rounds cook off next, chain reaction racing through the complex as each detonation ruptures the wall to the next compartment and each compartment feeds the next. Fireball after fireball erupts through fractures in the concrete overhead, and the night sky over Isfahan turns orange-white. Hundreds of millions of dollars in Iranian missiles and artillery, months of production, years of stockpiling, cooking off in a chain reaction that no fire crew on Earth could stop. The ammunition depot that held enough ordnance to threaten every coalition base in the Persian Gulf just became the newest parking lot in Iran. If you enjoyed this video, watch this other video on the war with Iran. Bye for now.